Thank you for joining the Lone Star Prize pre-registration webinar. This session is being recorded. Please be sure you are on mute and feel free to enter any questions into the chat. At this time, I would like to turn the conference over to Christabel Valena with Common Pool. Please go ahead.
Thanks so much, everyone, for joining today's webinar for the Lone Star Prize. Again, this is Christabel Valena, and I am with Common Pool, the agency that is supporting Lever for Change and Lyda Hill Philanthropies for this competition. Again, please note this webinar is being recorded and will be available on the News and Updates page of LoneStarPrize.org. This will be available by the end of next week, and we'll email it to those who have registered for the competition as well. We also apologize and are so sorry that we won't have closed captioning today, but we will have the transcript available afterward. We have a short agenda for you today. We'll start with an overview of the competition provided by Lyda Hill Philanthropies and Lever for Change. I'll then do a walkthrough of the website with my colleague Ethan Matthews, and then my colleague Talia Gibbs will help open it up for questions. When you're ready, please type all questions in the chat box, and we'll answer as many as we can today. Remember, the deadline to register for the Lone Star Prize is Tuesday, June 23rd at 5 p.m. Central. If you have more questions after today's session, please email them to us at questions@lonestarprize.org. Also, please save the date of Wednesday, July 8th at 3 p.m. Central for another Q&A webinar for registered applicants. Here we'll provide a technical demonstration of the online application platform and answer more questions. More details on this webinar will be emailed to registered applicants shortly after the June 23rd registration deadline. Now, I'm very pleased to turn things over to Cecilia Conrad, CEO of Lever for Change.
Good morning. I am Cecilia Conrad, CEO of Lever for Change. We are working with the Lyda Hill Philanthropies to launch the Lone Star Prize. I wanted to pause this moment to say a bit about why I am particularly excited to be involved at this historical moment. My parents moved to Dallas, Texas in 1955 when I was less than a year old because St. Paul Hospital, now no longer in existence, decided to welcome African American doctors on its staff. Years later, my father became chief of staff. I graduated from Dallas Public Schools, became a presidential scholar, and was a youth representative on the Goals for Dallas Arts Committee. Texas is home, and Texas has always been, for me, a place of opportunity. So it's especially exciting to welcome you to this webinar for the Lone Star Prize that will award a $10 million grant to a transformative solution that will improve the lives of Texans, all Texans. This competition gives me hope. Over the past few months, I suspect that many of you, like me, have had to work hard to keep focused on hope. First, COVID-19 exposed the economic vulnerability of thousands of families as an image of hundreds of cars lined up at a food bank in San Antonio beamed around the world. COVID-19 also shined a bright light on the racial and ethnic disparity endemic to American life. The mass movement that has emerged across the country in the past 10 days is not just about the killing of George Floyd. It is also about our collective failure to address the systemic issues that perpetuate this inequality. We've seen disturbing scenes on the evening news, but we've also seen people from across racial and ethnic groups come together peacefully to demand change, a sign of hope. The Lone Star Prize is about making this hope of a better future become a reality. It's an opportunity to cultivate stronger, healthier, resilient communities and families. Thank you for joining us today, and I would like to introduce Nicole Small from the Lyda Hill Philanthropies.
Thank you so much, Cecilia. Your personal story is so meaningful and so powerful. We are so fortunate to partner with you and your team on this work. From the minute we met you, we knew that this was going to be an exciting project. You know, we too at Lyda Hill Philanthropies recognize that the past several months have been extremely challenging on so many levels. Obviously, the most recent unjust and inhumane murders of George Floyd and so many other Black people has highlighted and reinforced many of these challenges. And as Cecilia said, this project is actually about hope for a better future. In fact, little did we know about 9 months ago when we started planning this project that on our planned launch date, which was 3/31/2020, the world would need a good news story more than ever. Launching the Lone Star Prize comes at a time when our communities need bold ideas put into action. Communities need to see a little hope and promise, especially for areas most hard hit, like workforce and healthcare. Communities need to see people coming together and a reminder that are smart, hardworking people committed to actually making a difference. Lyda Hill Philanthropies encompasses the charitable giving for founder Lyda Hill and includes her foundation and personal philanthropy. Our objective is to invest in game-changing advances in nature and science, as well as place-based giving to empower the nonprofit sectors and enrich the communities of Texas and Colorado. We do this by using all the assets at our disposal, both our for-profit and nonprofit investment tools, to make change in the things that we care about. We believe we're making a significant impact in a variety of ways, from investing in oncology startups to NGOs trying to save the oceans. And frankly, most recently, a lot of COVID work. So for the past 4 years, we have been intrigued by the concept of prize philanthropy as a catalyst for big ideas. But through all our research, we were never convinced we had the right timing, topic, or execution partner. That is until last year when the MacArthur Foundation spun out of Lever for Change to help philanthropists like Lyda run prize competitions with a minimum of a $10 million commitment. And that was the day Cecilia walked through our door. So we're intrigued about the concept of a competition as a catalyst for philanthropy across our entire state. We're interested in using it as an effective way to source new solutions to complex issues, to allow for discovery beyond our usual suspects, to inspire and incent collaboration among nonprofits, to encourage leaders in the social sector to think big and challenge the status quo. By design, the competition will produce a pipeline of fundable, Texas-focused big bets by providing applicants with capacity-building supports to strengthen their proposals and highlighting the best ideas on a public database accessible to other funders. We're especially interested in the secondary market and will showcase the best proposals in a public database to give top applicants greater visibility to other funders and help cultivate a secondary market for great ideas. We designed the competition around health, environment, and workforce because these are areas that are especially critical to the future of our state, really in our whole country, and even more as we recover from the global pandemic. We are excited to involve strategic partners like Texas 2036, the DRK Foundation, and the Dallas Federal Reserve as institutions that share a commitment to building a resilient Texas through these impact areas. Thank you for taking the time to think big with us and participate in the first statewide competition of its kind. We hope the Lone Star Prize serves as a model for other states to emulate. Jenna?
Thanks, Nicole. Hi, my name is Jenna Shornack. I am the Awards Director at Lever for Change. As Nicole mentioned, LFC is an affiliate of the MacArthur Foundation. Our mission is to unlock significant philanthropic capital and help accelerate positive social change around the world's biggest challenges. We do this through competitions and our Bold Solutions Network, which is a searchable database containing top vetted proposals from all of our competitions. I will speak briefly today about the Lone Star Prize scoring criteria to help you understand what we think makes a competitive proposal for this prize. But first, again, I want to encourage you to please assess your fit for the prize by filling out the organizational readiness tool and registering by Tuesday, June 23rd by 5 p.m. Central. The registration process is quick and straightforward. Once you have registered, you may complete and submit your application by Wednesday, July 22nd by 5 p.m. Central. Please note the application is up on the Lone Star Prize website right now, and you can begin working as soon as you register. As you work on the application, please refer to the scoring rubric on the website. The rubric outlines the criteria upon which your proposal will be evaluated in the peer-to-peer review phase, as well as by the evaluation panel, should you make it to that stage. I will now talk a bit more about the criteria and what we would consider a strong proposal. There are 4 criteria, each with a score of 1 through 5, as indicated on the website. The first scoring category is transformative. This aligns with the big bet approach Lyda Hill Philanthropies envisioned when launching this prize. We would like to see bold and ambitious proposals to significantly improve the lives of Texas residents, resulting in systemic change and benefiting communities over time. The second criterion is about scalability. Projects may currently work within a specific context, but should be able to be replicated, expanded, or adapted to meet the growing needs of Texas. Scale could be expanding to new places or deepening your impact in the same context or community. We hope you are able to articulate your vision and strategy for scale throughout your proposal. Next, the feasibility criteria looks at the shovel readiness of your project, as well as the capacity of your team to implement the solution. We'd like to see a budget and implementation plan that addresses risks and barriers to success. We also want to see that you are engaging in the community and have buy-in from community leaders. And finally, evidence-based. Proposals should present evidence that the solution delivers practicable and compelling results. Additionally, we want to see that your design decisions were based on information about the community you plan to serve. Prototypes and solutions in early development or pilot stages without existing results are unlikely to be competitive. I encourage you to check out the scoring rubric on the website for more details, and I will now hand it back to Christabel from Common Pool to explain in more detail the application, eligibility, and other aspects of the process. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Jenna, and thanks again, everyone, for joining us. It is our goal with this webinar to provide all the information you need to help decide whether or not to register for this competition. As mentioned, registration is required and is a simple process. You can go to the upper right-hand corner of any page on the website and click on the button that says 19 days to register. You will then be instructed to create and confirm your account before completing a registration form. This will request some basic information about your organization so that we can better understand our registrant community. Please note you will not receive email confirmation of your registration. If you are able to access the online application and forms on the platform, then you have registered properly for the competition. For all of our competitions, we embrace the values of openness, transparency, and fairness. We help make sure that everyone who registers and applies for the prize knows exactly what we expect from them, when and how they're going to be scored, and who will be evaluating their solutions. This website is really an instructional guide to understanding that process. As Jenna mentioned, please start with the organizational readiness tool. When you access this from the menu, you'll be presented with a questionnaire comprised of 9 questions. If you answer yes to each of those questions, you are very likely prepared to move forward and complete the registration process. If you answered no to any of these questions, then we encourage you to find a partner organization who would help ensure you're a stronger fit for the prize, or perhaps consider seeking out other funding opportunities that might be a better fit. Once you've completed the organizational readiness tool and find you will be competitive for this program, you're encouraged to review the application. All application requirements are available for any visitor to this site. You can see all of the questions and prompts that are required to complete the application process. Please read through the 10 major sections of the application in its entirety before you begin, so that you have a good grasp of what is required in order to submit a competitive application. Great, so the next question we often get is, so now I know what I have to do to apply, but how will my application be scored? Jenna covered the 4 traits in our rubric that we're going to ask you to consider: transformative, scalable, feasible, and evidence-based. When you go to the scoring rubric page, you can also see that you can toggle back and forth between these single integer scoring ranges for any given trait, and a predefined phrase will appear to further define what a low and a high score means for the prize. We find that many of our applicants will examine these scoring range definitions to then reverse engineer the process and write to the higher end of the rubric. We encourage you to do that. And what's more, that here you can see that we're not only defining what makes a strong proposal, but you as an applicant are presented with the very same tool that applicants and evaluation panel judges will be using as they score their assigned applications. The first round of evaluation is peer-to-peer review. Each lead applicant will score and comment on 5 applications from other organizations using the scoring rubric. This review is required by our applicants in order to remain eligible to participate in later stages of the competition. Once peer-to-peer review is complete, a subset of top scoring applications will move forward to the evaluation panel. In addition to numeric scores, peer reviewers and evaluation panel judges will also be required to provide comments to justify each score for each trait in the rubric, as well as an overall impression of the entire application. So we've shown you the application requirements in order to participate, and we've reviewed how applications will be evaluated. Now let's dive into who is scoring and how we are ensuring a process that is fair. To address the question of fairness, we have a web page dedicated specifically to explaining how we normalize scores. Every valid application will be scored by 5 fellow applicants, and a subset of top scoring submissions will then be scored by 5 members of our evaluation panel. This means that not every applicant and not every judge will look at every application. Therefore, we look at those reviewer scores and make sure that you're not disadvantaged if by chance you were assigned to hard graders versus another applicant who might get an advantage if they were assigned to easy graders. If you go to the menu and click on Level Playing Field, as you can see here, we have outlined how we can go about rescaling those scores to ensure fairness, and we encourage you to read through this to learn more. Next, oftentimes we then get asked, now that I know that it's fair, who will be scoring my application? To learn more about the evaluation panel, go ahead and return to the menu and go to Evaluation. There are currently 68 evaluation panel members featured, and not only will you receive scores on your application from 5 of these individuals, but you'll also get feedback. We often find that this feedback is one of the most important aspects of participating in our competitions for our applicants, and that even if you are not selected as a finalist or not awarded a grant, you walk away with valuable feedback that you can then use to refine your solutions and perhaps seek other funding or expanded support. All right, next let's quickly visit the rules page. Here you can read about the legal stipulations on the teams governing your application and your participation. You can find the eligibility criteria, and you can learn more about the detailed terms and conditions required of all our participating teams. And then lastly, let's go to the timeline page, which details each phase of the competition. Again, registration is required and must be completed by Tuesday, June 23rd at 5 p.m. Central in order to be eligible to submit a proposal. The application deadline is Wednesday, July 22nd at 5 p.m. Central. While we understand these are very challenging times, we don't expect any changes to our timeline, and these deadlines will not be extended to ensure fairness for all our applicants. So please do not wait until the last minute to complete. Please note that peer-to-peer review will be over a period of 3 weeks in August, and the dates are listed here to help plan your time accordingly. Review happens independently over this time period, and applicants will be using our online scoring platform to evaluate and comment on their assigned applications. All of the other key steps to the competition are available here for you on the timeline. And there are other pages like news and updates and some aspects of the homepage like the questions and answers section. It's very intuitive with lots of helpful information, so we encourage you to spend time reading through the site. And now let's move on to the Q&A portion of the webinar. Please continue to add your questions into the chat and we'll get to as many as possible. I will say that to ensure fairness, we are not able to provide guidance specific to your proposed solution, so we encourage you to take the organizational readiness tool and review the page of the website to help determine if you are eligible and if your solution is a strong fit for the competition. You can also email us at questions@lonestarprize.org and our team will respond. All right, let's get started. Talia?
Yes. So the first question is, I've seen a lot of language as this being a prize and competition. Does this mean the award is not a grant and is subject to prize taxes?
This is a philanthropic grant competition, so each finalist and awardee will enter into a grant agreement with Idaho Philanthropies when that time comes.
Can you, so this is in reference to this section that says, can you confirm that your proposed project does not include or represent any of the following activities? The question is, how do we line item this in the budget if we plan to scale the team? So for example, I think general operating for university, department, and institutes.
Along with the budget and the application, there is a space for a budget narrative, and that would be a space where you can provide more information about the line items or provide a more thorough explanation of each line.
Great. So the question about changing registration, if they've decided to partner with another organization who will take the lead, how can they change their existing registration?
Yes, they can go ahead and email us. Actually, they can go ahead and log in and create a registration with that new organization and then use that to submit their application.
Will there be a list of potential partners shared?
There is a list of all competition partners on the website on the About page, so I encourage you to check that out.
Our letters of
Cecilia.
support. Go ahead.
Could I just say one more thing on that last one, because it wasn't completely clear to me if they were looking for partners to work with their organization. And so once you've registered, there is a forum, which might give you a chance to do that if that's what you want to do.
Are letters of support required for the application to show community buy-in?
Letters are not required in the application, but we do expect you to show within your narrative sections of the application how you've included community buy-in in your proposal.
And just a follow-up question, they're not required, but will they be accepted if someone wants to submit them?
Not in this first phase, but in potentially finalists will work with a revised proposal, and that might be something that will be included in that stage.
And Jenna, this is Lynn. Just to add to that, there is actually no place in the application where you can add letters of support. So just please hold on to those until a later phase.
Will applicants have the ability to submit additional supplemental documentation to support any evidence-based data that they might not have enough space to include on the application?
I can start with that one. At this stage, any links to more information and evidence-based studies will likely be collected in later stages of the competition. You can include whatever will fit in the space provided. There's also an other considerations question where this information could be included.
Can you talk about how the philanthropy will balance solutions that hit all three pillars versus a strong proposal in only one?
This competition is interested in proposals that work across each of the three categories, but also within each category. So we are interested in strong proposals and not prioritizing one or the other or cross-sector.
Can an organization lead one application and also be a subgrantee or partner on a different application but not the lead organization?
Then I can start with this one. An applicant can be the principal organization on only one application, but you can be a partner on multiple proposals. The only thing we ask is that each of those proposed solutions are different and separate.
And then to what degree will having a wide degree of collaborators or lack thereof be weighed?
Great question. We definitely will prioritize organizations that are working with communities, working with people who are providing evidence, but we will not be scoring based on the number or lack of collaborators that you are working with.
Can you elaborate on how pilot projects are not competitive while at the same time there is innovation encouraged?
Another great question. I think we are looking for projects that are using innovative methods, innovative partnerships, but we do want to fund programs that have some evidence of working and have been tested in some degree.
And this next question goes back to the collaboration, touches back on the collaboration question briefly. In the case of a group or coalition working together on a single application, what is the process for registering?
Each of those groups could register so that they can access and view the application, but also all applicants and team members can see the application information through this website. We do ask that just the principal organization is the one that submits on behalf of all of the group, and that it's only one submission under that one registration.
Other than MOUs among partners, what other documentation is accepted to document partnerships?
At this time, that is the only documentation we will require in the first stage of the application.
If multiple organizations are collaborating on a single application, should they submit the application from only the lead organizer, or is there an opportunity to propose that the collaboration will be through a newly created fiscal sponsorship if the prize is awarded?
I think if the fiscal sponsorship isn't yet finalized, then yes, they should choose one primary organization to submit the application on their behalf, and they can note their future plans in the narrative responses.
Is there any sort of preference or weighting of proposals based on direct human programs for select disadvantaged groups versus environmental enhancements that serve all, including those in greatest need?
Another great question. I encourage you to look at the scoring rubric, and it's hard to comment directly on that question without knowing the nature of the proposed solution, but we are looking for transformative systemic change in applications.
Is there a minimum population to serve or impact?
There's no minimum population to serve or impact, but we are, again, looking for scalable solutions that take into account ambitious projects for all Texans.
Is there benefit if the program impacts extend well beyond Texas or enables global markets for the Texas economy, industry, and workforce?
Yes, definitely. This is a Texas-based prize focused on Texas, but we are looking for scalable solutions that can be potentially replicated in other communities in Texas or in other places.
Does the lead organization need to be a Texas-based organization?
Yes, the Lone Star Prize is open. Oh, go ahead, Jenny.
Sorry, go ahead,
Jenna.
Okay. All teams must be led by an organization. Must be led by an organization that has an existing operating presence in Texas and is good standing with the relevant jurisdictions. We are open to teams and ideas that are outside of Texas, but they must focus on Texas-specific needs and context.
Can you please share more about the requirement for having an existing operating presence in Texas and being in good standing within the relevant jurisdictions? What exactly does that entail?
That means that you need to be doing work within Texas at this time.
The solicitation says the applicant must have a track record, internal data, and/or formal evidence that the proposed approach will positively impact the communities served. If the applicant proposes a model that has demonstrated evidence in another location but not yet in Texas, would this be acceptable?
Yes, that is acceptable, but we would ask in your proposal you make a direct connection of how it will also work in Texas and what modifications will be needed to make sure that it is applicable to a Texas context.
Can you please clarify again how organizations should register if they are partnering with two other organizations? Meaning, does one organization name go on the registration form and then we further explain on the actual application?
Yes, on the application, there's opportunity to list your key partners and also provide more details in the narrative responses.
Is it appropriate and feasible to speak with one of you to determine if our project and program is appropriate for this program?
So we encourage you to email all questions to the email address provided. We can answer questions about eligibility, but we cannot provide feedback on specific proposals.
Are capital expenditures building out facilities allowed as part of the budget? Are there guidelines on the percentage of the budget to limit for that?
It's a great question. I think this is something that we will email you directly about, just to make sure we're providing you the accurate information.
Great. Can you elaborate on this part of the application? Proposed solutions that rely on additional unsecured funding may not be eligible for the Lone Star Prize. If your total projected costs exceed $10 million, explain how you have secured or plan to secure the balance of any necessary funds and provide an overview of how those funds will be used.
Okay, I was going to jump in on this one. The goal of the award is to make change with the award. There is an openness that if the award is also, if you require additional funding and you secured it, there's an openness to considering that. But it isn't meant to be a first installment on a much, much bigger project.
If our proposed solution is scalable, but the first phase of implementation solely focuses on a certain region or metro area of the state, will that hurt an application?
No, definitely not. But there is a question in the application about scalability, and that would be the place to provide more details about future plans.
Are there boundaries in terms of solutions? In particular, working with a fossil fuel and other heavy industry is often seen as working against the purposes of philanthropy.
Again, we encourage you to check out the website. In the About page, we outline some parameters for each solution category, but there are no distinct boundaries of how you can work within or across those categories.
The budget guidance says 5 to 20% should be for M&E. Can you talk about the expectation for evaluation and research, considering that solutions are supposed to be proven and evaluated?
Yes, we anticipate that your plans will be dynamic, and we put a high priority on monitoring, evaluation, and learning. And so we just want to make sure that we see in your plan that your project will take that into account as it evolves, and that you will be consistently evaluating the success of your project. And I also encourage you to check out on the website, there is a special page on guidance for monitoring, evaluation, and learning, and this provides more information about what we expect to see in those plans. which will be fleshed out in future stages of the prize if you make it to the finalist stage.
Can you confirm that proposals to spend the $10 million over 3 years or 4 are acceptable if we make the case for a shorter intervention?
Yes, we expect the grant disbursement period to be over 5 years, but that will be negotiated and planned with each finalist organization and with the final awardee with Lighthouse Philanthropies.
What weight is given to the size of the primary applicant's budget? At one point, I thought I had seen the primary applicant's budget needed to be larger than $1 million, but it looks like that is no longer the case.
There is no budget requirement to participate in this competition, but feasibility is one of the criteria in the scoring rubric, so we do expect you to show that your team is feasible and able to implement this proposed solution.
And Jenna, I think you just had alluded to this, but there's a few more questions here. If you could just once again clarify the time frame within which the funds must be spent.
Sure. Again, at this time, we expect it to be a 5-year grant period, but that will be negotiated and figured out together with finalists and the final awardee. So we expect your application will work within that five-year period.
And since the finalists will be announced in May 2021, should the budget reflect a 5-year project period beginning in approximately June of 2021?
Yes.
Are commercial partners allowed? And if so, should they be included in MOUs? Also, we assume there will be restriction on the use of funds with respect to commercial partners, but can corporate funds be used to supplement the Lone Star funding?
Great question. Commercial partners are definitely allowed to be a partner. We just ask that you have an MOU, and they will be asked to provide a charitable purpose should they be the ones getting the fund. But great question.
The grant requires evidence-based solutions. Is this limited to only published research specific to the program or project? Are other forms of academic or professional research sufficient?
We are open to many types of evidence-based solutions, so everything you just listed is definitely works.
With the focus on communities, will proposals seeking to engage local governments and the private sector be given lower prioritization?
No, that is not part of the scoring rubric, but government entities are not eligible to apply or be the lead organization for this competition, but you will definitely not be downgraded for working with them.
Going back to the research question real quick, I realize that the proposed project should not be a research project. However, we use participatory action research. Thus, researchers will be continually evaluating during the project. If they identify something that can be changed to make the work more effective, the change would be made with the field staff. Is this type of research evaluation allowed?
Yes, definitely. We are just not interested in funding solutions focused primarily on research studies, but we definitely encourage part of the monitoring evaluation plan to include research or other types of information gathering.
In order to propose new transformative solutions, it is likely that it will be a prototype approach. Why won't that score well? Demonstrated solutions are old solutions. New ones might not have a long track record yet.
Again, great question. We are looking for solutions that you can provide some sort of evidence that they are successful. So you could be a new organization, you could be trying something new, but we will want you to show in your application that there has been some sort of track record of success.
Does the primary applicant need to be the one managing the funds? Can another organization support the administrative work associated with the funds?
The primary organization applying does need to be the one managing the funds, and that is the organization that will enter into a grant agreement with Idaho Philanthropies.
For the budget line item question in section H, is there a minimum level of detail you are seeking? How will this budget line item question be scored?
There's not a minimum other than what we've listed under that question of what we expect to see. I expect this question will be part of the feasibility score, where we ask you, ask the reviewers and peer-to-peer and the evaluation panel to look at risk mitigation and potential for success.
Can Lone Star funds be used to provide students with scholarships and/or tuition assistance?
That is not something that is explicitly ineligible in our rules, but we can clarify that and get back to you specifically.
There's a few questions here about clarifying the eligibility of city governments and municipal institutions. So can city governments be key partners? And can you provide a little bit more clarification on the eligibility of government entities to participate in the project, excuse me, and receive funds through a partnership? Would schools be considered a government entity and not eligible for funding?
Good question. Government entities are able to partner with lead organizations, but governments cannot be the lead organizations and be the ones accepting the award. Can you repeat the second part of that question, Talia?
So I guess the second part is the eligibility of government entities to participate in the project and receive funds through the partnership. So for example, would schools not be eligible for funding, or would they be eligible for funding?
Schools are able to register and to be the principal organization.
Do MOUs with proposal partners need to be executed by the application due date, or can they be in process?
They do need to be executed by the application due date. And again, I encourage you to check out the MOU page on the website, which gives details about what exactly needs to be in the MOU. We've tried to make it as simple as possible, because we know that sometimes takes a long time and can be a struggle to get done quickly. So I encourage you to check out that page.
If the project collaborates with other public or private partners, but they are not partnering on the application or as part of the prize, does this require a formal MOU submission in the application?
So any partner that is critical for completing the proposed solution that you outline in the application does need to have an MOU. If they are just a partner for your organization generally, we do not need that information.
Can the funds be used to support advocacy efforts focused on policy change?
So again, there's a page on the website. You can find it within a link in the application about our lobbying policy. There is a small amount that is allowable, but primarily advocacy is not part of this prize.
Will this be the only time to apply for the Lone Star Prize, or will there be future opportunities in the coming years?
TBD. Right now, this is the only planned opportunity.
Can you clarify that Texas 2036 is a resource and potential partner for any winner and is not going to be applying as a participant in the competition?
Great question. We do not know who or which organizations will apply for this competition, but if they do apply, we will make clear what their role is in partnering with the Light Hill Philanthropies and this competition to ensure fairness.
Will the prize fund the creation of online platforms, or does the prize prefer on-the-ground action and engagement in communities?
There is no preference for online action versus on-the-ground communities.
Can the proposal include covering the cost of training or licensing for recognized certifications for workforce development?
Yes.
As the primary organization, we will be allocating portions of the funds to our 2 partner organizations. Is this considered a subgrant, and will it require different documentation?
So the funds cannot be used to create an endowment or subgrant, but if they are part of the partnership or a vendor contractor to implement the project, that is allowable. But we do not want this grant to be turned into another grant.
Can the solution be a research program that brings together world experts and solves a health issue in Texas?
Programs that primarily focus on research are not eligible for this competition.
Can a public university be the lead organization, as they are both schools and government organizations?
The universities can be the lead organization.
Are any of the organizations represented by the evaluation team eligible to apply for the Lone Star Prize?
We do ask that if anyone on the evaluation panel chooses to apply for the prize, that they step down. And if they are just a member of an organization that happens to apply but are not on the project team, we just ensure that they are not evaluating their own team's proposal.
If the project has multiple partners, do they all need to be featured in the video?
No, we leave it up to your own artistic discretion to create that video. We want to emphasize that it does not need to be high quality, and you can decide if it's one speaker or multiple speakers, but they do not all need to be part of the video.
And some additional clarification on the MOUs. Does the partner MOU have to be signed by the registration deadline or the submission deadline?
The MOU needs to be signed by the submission deadline, which is in July, but not the registration deadline.
And just to, one more time, Jenna, you just went over this, but did you say that schools are or are not eligible to be the lead?
They are eligible to be the lead, but we do not want to fund general operating support for university departments or institutes.
And I'll add the full list of eligible principal organizations are available on the rules page of the website.
What is the length of time of the existing solution to demonstrate that it is viable and possibly scalable?
We do not have a set period of time that needs to prove that it's successful.
This is Cecilia. I just want to add something that Jenna has mentioned before. It's anticipated that the grant is a 5-year grant. And if you advance to that stage, you'll be working out a grant agreement with Lyda Hill Philanthropies, and I anticipate there may be some expectation of milestones over those 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Can you expand on the secondary database being created for the other proposals?
Sure. So Lever for Change has a Bold Solutions network, which you can go check out right now. Top proposals from all competitions we run are featured in the Bold Solutions network to provide a secondary market for ideas to get funding from other sources, from other philanthropic sources. So at this time, all finalists will be part of this Bold Solutions network.
Can the track record of success for a given solution be accomplished by a separate organization that we adopt and customize for Texas? The organization that has the proven solution is out of state and would not be a partner.
Yes, definitely. That is part of the feasibility and evidence-based criteria. We would want to see how you are taking that information and how your team will be implementing it. But there's no requirement that it was your team that proved that it worked.
Which expenditures are not eligible for funding?
So individuals and government agencies are not eligible for funding, if that's what you were asking.
So the question was about expenditures. So any, are there any expenditures? Yeah.
This is Cecilia. If you look in the rules, number 6 has prohibited use of award funds. It is important that you review those rules carefully because there's lots of detail in those.
Talia, we'll probably take 2 more questions and then we'll wrap things up.
Great. There's a question about the potential partner forum that was mentioned earlier and where that is on the website.
I will add it to the Q&A chat box, but if you go into the application, the section about MOU, there's a link there that will provide more details.
I think they were referring to my earlier comment, so you're going to provide the details, Christabel. Go ahead.
Yes, so once you register, you can have access to the online application, but also the forums. There you can post information, request potential partners, and ask questions through the forums, and all registered applicants will be able to see the post.
Are supplemental funding sources from partners expected, or do they increase the competitiveness of the proposal?
That's great, but that's not something that we ask you to provide in this application. But if it is part of something that you think would make your project more feasible and you want to include it, there are spaces in the application that you can provide that information, but it's not a question that we ask.
Thank you, everyone. Lots of great questions, and I see that there are more. Please email us at questions@lonestarprize.org with any additional information. But again, we encourage you to review the website as it has lots of helpful tools and information for you as you decide to register and as you work on your proposal. We also do have another webinar scheduled, so please save the date, and we will send information to all the registered applicants on how to sign up for that webinar as well. And again, please complete the organizational readiness tool if you haven't done so already. And if you are a strong fit, please register no later than Tuesday, June 23rd at 5 p.m. Central. Recordings and transcripts of this webinar will be made available to registrants by email and in the forums on the platform. We'll also be posting this one in news and updates on the website. Thanks again so much for joining us, and we look forward to learning more about your efforts. I'll hand things over to Lever for Change for some closing remarks.
Thanks, everyone. We are so thrilled that you were able to join us today. We encourage you to send your questions in, and we will see you at the next webinar. Have a great day.